The ballroom shimmered with gold lights and laughter. But beneath the music and perfume was an invisible silence that wrapped around one girl in the corner. A young woman in a simple lilac dress, sitting quietly in her wheelchair, her hands folded in her lap as guests passed her like she was made of glass. Her name was Lily Carson, 23, the only daughter of billionaire CEO Richard Carson, whose name commanded respect across boardrooms and news headlines alike. Yet here, at her cousin's wedding, she was a ghost at her own family's celebration. Everyone smiled for photos, toasted champagne, and danced to the rhythm of a perfect night, but not one person, except the servers refilling glasses, seemed to notice the girl whose eyes shimmered with both pride and pain. Months ago, a car crash had stolen Lily's ability to walk and twisted her once bubbly life into endless hospital visits, therapy sessions, and awkward silences. She wasn't bitter, but she had grown used to the way people avoided her now, the way they looked at her with sympathy, then turned away as though her chair might remind them of something too fragile to face. Even her father, for all his power, struggled to look at her for long. His love was deep but his guilt deeper because he was driving that night when the crash happened. Tonight was supposed to be about family, happiness, and moving on, but Lily knew she was an afterthought in the shimmering world she used to belong to. That was until one voice cut through the hum of music like a ray of sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "Hey there," a warm, gentle tone said beside her. She turned and saw a man in his mid-30s wearing a slightly wrinkled suit and a crooked tie, holding a plate of cake in one hand and a child's toy in the other. He smiled, the kind of smile that didn't flinch at her wheelchair. "You mind if I sit here? My daughter has been chasing the bride's bouquet like it's the Olympics." Lily couldn't help but laugh softly. "Go ahead," she said, her voice quiet but steady. He sat down beside her, introduced himself as Ethan Reed, a single dad who worked as a mechanic. "Not exactly CEO material," he joked, "but I can fix just about anything that's broken." Lily smiled again, a real one this time, and something inside her began to loosen. Ethan's little girl, Mia, soon ran over, tiny curls bouncing, laughter spilling from her like sunlight, and handed Lily a flower she'd caught from the bouquet toss. "You're really pretty," Mia said with innocent confidence. It was the first genuine compliment Lily had heard all evening. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice catching slightly. Around them, people began whispering, some amused, some disapproving. After all, this was a wedding filled with millionaires and polished smiles. A single dad in a faded suit chatting with the CEO's daughter in a wheelchair didn't fit the picture-perfect scene. But Ethan didn't care. He asked about her favorite music, her hobbies before the accident, and what she wanted to do next. For the first time in months, Lily didn't feel like a patient or a burden. She felt like herself. Her father noticed the scene from across the room, his daughter laughing, her eyes alive, and for a moment he froze. Then one of the groomsmen made a cruel joke under his breath. "Guess someone's desperate enough to talk to her." Laughter rippled. Ethan stood up, his voice calm but firm. "You should be ashamed," he said loud enough for the music to pause. "This girl's stronger than any of you. You all walk around pretending to be perfect, but she's the only one here who knows what it means to fight every single day just to keep smiling." The room fell silent. Lily's heart pounded. No one had ever defended her like that. Her father's eyes softened, his face pale with regret as he realized the truth in Ethan's words. He crossed the room slowly, placed his hand on Lily's shoulder, and whispered, "I'm sorry I let the world forget who you are." Tears welled in her eyes as she looked up at him. "You didn't, Dad. I just needed someone to remind me I was still here." The music began again, this time softer, and as Ethan extended his hand toward her, he said, "May I have this dance?" Lily hesitated, glancing at her chair. "I can't." "Sure you can," he interrupted gently. "We'll make our own rhythm." He wheeled her toward the center of the dance floor, and the crowd parted. With Mia twirling beside them, Ethan held Lily's hands as they swayed, slow and unsteady but full of grace. The crowd watched in stunned silence, then began to clap, first softly, then louder, until the hall echoed with applause. In that moment, the girl who had been invisible became the heart of the celebration. By the end of the night, even the bride came over, tears streaming, and hugged Lily, whispering, "You were the most beautiful thing here." When the last song faded, Richard approached Ethan. "You have no idea what you did tonight," he said quietly. Ethan smiled. "I didn't do anything special. I just saw someone worth noticing." From that night, their lives intertwined in unexpected ways. Ethan and Mia started visiting Lily often. What began as friendship blossomed into something deeper, a connection built on kindness, honesty, and the courage to see beyond appearances. Lily began painting again, inspired by the way Ethan and Mia saw beauty in ordinary things. Her father, moved by their influence, founded a new charity to help young adults with disabilities find independence and purpose. And 1 year later, at another wedding, this time her own, Lily rolled onto the dance floor in a white gown, her eyes locked on Ethan's. "You taught me how to stand again," she whispered. "Not with my legs, but with my heart." The guests rose in applause, not out of pity, but pure admiration. The same people who once ignored her now stood witness to her strength. As the music swelled, Lily looked at the crowd and said into the microphone, "If you ever feel unseen, remember, sometimes it takes one voice to change the whole room." Her words lingered long after the lights dimmed. The story of the CEO's paralyzed daughter and the single dad who saw her not as broken, but as brave became a quiet legend. reminding everyone watching that kindness is the most powerful kind of wealth and love doesn't look at what's missing but at what still shines. Months passed after that magical wedding night, but the echo of applause and the warmth of Ethan's words still lived in Lily's heart like a quiet flame that refused to die. She once believed her accident had ended her life's melody, but now it felt like it had only changed its rhythm. Every morning she woke to sunlight streaming through her window, and instead of feeling trapped, she felt grateful, to breathe, to feel, to have people in her world who saw her beyond the chair. Ethan and Mia became part of her daily routine. Sometimes they'd visit the Carson estate for breakfast. Other times she'd join them at the small repair shop where Ethan worked, watching him with grease on his hands, fixing engines as if they were puzzles only his heart could solve. Lily found beauty in simplicity, the smell of oil and coffee, the laughter of a little girl who called her Aunt Lily, and the warmth of a man who treated her as someone capable, not fragile. Yet not everyone saw it that way. Whispers began in the business circles her father moved in. A mechanic, they said with thin smiles. Surely the CEO's daughter deserves better. But Lily, for once, didn't care. For the first time, she felt alive, not defined by money, pity, or expectation, but by genuine love. Still, old wounds have a way of resurfacing. One morning, while Ethan fixed a truck outside, Lily received a letter from a rehabilitation clinic in Switzerland, an offer for an experimental treatment that could potentially help her walk again. It was her dream, something she had once cried for at night, but now she hesitated, because taking it meant months away from Ethan and Mia, far from the life she had rebuilt. When she told Ethan, his expression froze for a second, then softened. "You have to go, Lily," he said gently, even as his voice trembled. "You fought too hard to stop now." She looked at him, tears brimming. "What if I don't come back the same?" He smiled faintly. "Then I'll fall in love with you all over again." Their goodbye at the airport was quiet but heavy, the kind of silence that wraps around two souls who understand love isn't about possession, it's about faith. As she wheeled away, Mia ran after her, pressing a small silver heart pendant into her palm. "So you don't forget us," she said. "I could never," Lily whispered, clutching it tightly. The months in Switzerland were grueling. Pain, doubt, and frustration became her constant companions, but she remembered Ethan's words every time she wanted to give up. "You're the strongest person I've ever met." Those words echoed through every sleepless night. And one morning, after endless therapy sessions and more tears than she thought she had left, something miraculous happened. Her fingers clenched the walker's bars, her legs trembled, and for the first time in years she stood. Just for a few seconds, just enough to cry out through the room, but it was enough. She recorded a short video, her smile trembling through tears, and sent it to Ethan. His phone buzzed in the middle of work. The moment he saw her standing, his eyes filled. Mia clapped beside him, shouting, "She did it." When Lily finally returned home 6 months later, the town gathered to welcome her. It wasn't the grand, press-covered event her father might have once arranged, but a humble gathering at Ethan's shop, balloons, confetti, and laughter echoing off the walls. Richard Carson stood beside his daughter, his eyes misty with pride and humility. "You've given me something I couldn't buy," he said softly. "Courage," Lily smiled, holding his hand. "You gave me the chance to live again, Dad, that's enough." Then she turned, spotting Ethan in the crowd. Their eyes met like gravity had its own pulse. She walked slowly, carefully across the floor, every step uncertain yet fierce, until she reached him. "You kept your promise," she whispered, touching the pendant still hanging around her neck. "You said I'd walk again," he smiled. "No, Lily, you did that." She leaned into him, their foreheads touching while Mia tugged at their hands. "Can we go home now?" she asked, making them both laugh. Time moved forward, and so did they. Lily didn't just regain her strength, she found her calling. She began a foundation for young accident survivors, offering emotional and financial support to those who'd lost hope. The foundation grew fast, but Lily stayed humble, often visiting hospitals personally, holding hands with patients and telling them, "You're not broken, you're becoming." Ethan, always by her side, became her anchor in the storm. They married quietly in a garden, surrounded by family, friends, and every soul who'd once doubted but now believed. During her vows, Lily said, "Once I thought my story was over when I lost my legs, but it was just the beginning, because love doesn't need perfection, it just needs someone brave enough to stay." The guests wept openly. Even Richard, once the man who hid behind success, now stood proudly beside his daughter and new son-in-law, his heart lighter than it had been in years. After the ceremony, Lily sat on a bench watching the sunset with Ethan. "Do you ever think about that night?" she asked. "The wedding where everyone ignored me," he chuckled softly. "Every day, it reminds me how one small choice to speak up can change everything." She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Then maybe that's what life's about, not waiting for the world to notice you, but finding the one voice that does." The camera of memory faded out on that image, the girl who once sat alone in the corner, now walking, laughing, and surrounded by love. In her speeches, interviews, and viral online videos that followed, Lily always ended with the same message. If you see someone sitting alone, go talk to them. You never know, you might just be saving their life. Her story touched millions, not because she was the CEO's daughter, but because she was proof that kindness can resurrect the human spirit. Years later, Mia, now grown, gave her own wedding toast, saying, "My parents taught me that love isn't found in fairy tales. It's found in moments of courage, like the day my dad talked to a girl everyone else ignored." The The crowd rose to applaud, and Lily, sitting beside Ethan with proud tears in her eyes, whispered, "He didn't just talk to me, he saw me." And as the music played, Ethan squeezed her hand, murmuring, "Always will." The lights shimmered, laughter filled the air, and the story came full circle, the kind of ending that doesn't fade when the screen goes black but lingers in your heart, reminding you that one act of compassion can turn a forgotten soul into the star of her own story. So if you've made it this far, take a deep breath, smile, and remember, there's someone out there waiting for your voice. Don't ignore them, be the one who speaks up. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more, and share this message. Because somewhere, someone needs to hear that they're still worth noticing.